What is going on, everybody? This is episode 4 of Let's Be Frank with your host, Frank Mattis. And today I'll talk about the Eagles' Week 2 matchup on Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons. I will also talk about those red-hot Phillies and their sweep of the Tampa Bay Rays. And I will also break a little Flyers news for you as well. So a lot to get into, and let's get started. So let's get started with those Eagles. They obviously host the Atlanta Falcons on Monday night at the Link. I'm super excited to see the Eagles back home, and I'm sure that place on Monday night will be rocking and rolling, and with good reason, because I do think that this is a favorable matchup for the Eagles. Now, granted, I do think the Atlanta Falcons are a solid team, and I do think that, it'll take time, but once they get some of the new stars that they brought in, obviously they brought in Kirk Cousins, they drafted Michael Penix Jr. to sort of solidify their quarterback situation for essentially the present and the future. They brought in Justin Simmons as well as Matthew Judon to solidify their defense. So they have a pretty promising team. They look primed and ready to compete for an NFC South title. And I do think that they have the ability to do so, but I do think that it'll take some time. And it was very evident week 1. The Atlanta Falcons did not have a strong showing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially offensively. Now, granted, the Pittsburgh Steelers have one of the best defenses in all football, but that offense definitely looks sluggish. And TJ Watt obviously had his way with the Atlanta Falcons offensive line, especially with Caleb McGarry, who's one of the premier right tackles in football, but he did not have a good showing. So it was a very slow start for them. Very slow start for Kirk Cousins, who's coming off of a torn Achilles. So it'll probably take some time for him to get, fully back in the swing of things. And I think he's right for the taking. And I think if you're an Eagles D lineman, I think you should be licking your chops, given the way that the Falcons offensive line performed, given the lack of mobility of Kirk Cousins. And it's going to be key because the pass rush was non-existent in week 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially in the interior of the Eagles defensive line with the Georgia Bulldogs of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. They did not have a strong showing against that Packers interior, who I mentioned was the strength of that offensive line. And listen, you could chalk that up to poor field conditions, and I think it's very plausible that the field conditions did play a role. But, we invested a lot in those guys, and they need to show up and they need to play better. So luckily for them, the weakness of the Atlanta Falcons is their interior, and, they should take advantage of that and ultimately get to Kirk Cousins, who doesn't seem right at the moment. And I think that you get the Kirk Cousins who doesn't have the mobility, especially he doesn't really have the mobility of a Jordan Love, who is not necessarily a dual threat guy, but obviously has some, running ability. But if you can get to him and you can pressure him, it's going to be a long night. I really believe that if we get to Kirk Cousins, he's going to make some bad decisions and he's going to get flustered. And obviously, Kirk Cousins does not play well in prime time, and I think that, if you can get to him, I think that will continue. And obviously, Bryce Huff is another guy that needs to step up. He did not have a great game in week 1. But, Caleb McGarry, for whatever reason, who, like I mentioned, is one of the better right tackles, did not show up against TJ Watt. But then again, you could also argue TJ Watt does that to a lot of guys. But, Bryce Huff, I think, can get after it and should be able to get after it, given Caleb McGarry's early struggles. So it's imperative that he do so because, like I mentioned, Kirk Cousins, has a tendency to be flustered when there's pressure in his face. But, to me, if I was the Atlanta Falcons, and you kind of know that Kirk Cousins is kind of getting his feet wet and is going to take some time to get acclimated in that offense, they're going to feature Bijan Robinson. If I was the Atlanta Falcons, if I was their OC, that's what I'd be doing. There is some favorable matchups for them because the Eagles' run defense wasn't the best, with the exception of Zach Bond, who showed up in week 1. Hopefully that's not a one-hit wonder. Hopefully that is something that we're going to be seeing on a weekly basis, him being in the right spot, him filling gaps because, to me, he's not going to wow you with his athleticism. He's not. I mean, he wasn't a highly touted guy in free agency, but the one thing about Zach Bond that is key is he is where he needs to be, and that's going to be key. And when you look at the NFL nowadays, obviously tackling is not what it used to be, and the linebacker play is pretty much at an all-time low, with the exception of teams like the San Francisco 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then also Detroit obviously has some good linebackers, but linebacking play is down. But listen, if you can get to where you need to be, that's all you can ask. And Zach Bond is one of those guys. So it's key for him to have a good solid back-to-back game. Nakobe Dean was a little bit up and down in week 1. Hopefully he has a much better showing week 2. CJ in his return to Philadelphia did not have a great game. And, he's one of those guys that's a bit of a playmaker and is not really known for his tackling. But, they're going to be looking to attack him in the run game. And with Bijan Robinson, he's not only a threat in the run, but he's in the running game, but he's also a threat in the passing game. So it's very imperative that our linebackers pursue and fill, because listen, like I mentioned, linebacking play is not, where it needs to be. But at the very least, if you pursue and get to where you need to be, and let's just say you miss or get a hand on the ball carrier, the guy behind you, who does their job, can fill in and clean things up. So it's imperative that guys, fill and pursue and clean things up in the running and passing game with Bijan Robinson. So those are the keys defensively. Offensively, it's protect the football. Obviously, Jalen struggled in terms of protecting the football. He turned it over 3 times. He made 2 just unforgivable throws, if I can be candid. But ultimately that did not matter because they did get the win in week 1, but that is not sustainable. And there's been a lot of talk about, is Jalen Hurts a turnover machine? We'll see. We'll see. If these turnovers continue, then I think there's a case to be made for that. But to me, there's no excuse. And when you have the weapons that you have, and you've shown that you can survey the field and read defenses and get the ball to the right guy, because if you watch the All-22, there were some missed opportunities for Jalen Hurts. The key for him is to go through his progressions, survey the field. You got quality guys around you, whether it's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. There's going to be open guys. And if you just calm down, survey the field, don't play hero ball. This isn't Carson Wentz circa 2020 when your number 1 wide receiver is Travis Fulgham, and you sort of have no choice but to play hero ball. Obviously, that did not pan out so well for him, but you don't have to do it with this offense. You have a multitude of guys to throw to, and if you just trust your guys, read the field, you'll be fine. So if he can do that, and they really instill that in him this week, whether it's Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier, I think he'll be fine going forward. But it's very key that he sees the field, because there'll be wide open guys with the talent that they have, and also continue to run the football. Atlanta's not. I'm not really impressed with their run defense. Where their bread is buttered is their secondary. They have a pretty solid secondary with A.J. Terrell, who's one of the best corners in football. And they obviously bring in Justin Simmons, who's a former All-Pro. So, I'm very curious to see how A.J. and Devontae perform. Just as a football fan, I'm excited to see them match up against, top quality DBs. But they're good enough to do so. But to me, it's attacking the weakness is their run defense. And if, they run the football with Saquon, I think they'll be fine, and, control the clock, control the tempo of the game, run the ball. Then the defense will be forced to cheat. And then that's when, you get the ball to AJ, Devontae, and Dallas Goedert. So to me, I think the matchups are there. I think the Eagles win 38-17. There's been a lot of chatter of the Eagles being on upset alert, and I don't really see it. But then again, this is the NFL. Nobody expected the Patriots to go into Cincinnati and to beat the Bengals. So anything can happen. They do, what do they always say? It's any given Sunday, but in this case, it's any given Monday. So anything is possible, but I don't like the matchup. If I like the matchup as an Eagles fan, and I don't think that the matchup's great for Atlanta, especially with Kirk Cousins coming off of a torn Achilles. I don't think he's comfortable. I think it'll take time. And, like I mentioned before, he does not play well on prime time. And the last two seasons, actually, he came into Philadelphia in prime time. He struggled mightily. So I like the Eagles' chances. I have them winning 38-17. Next, we have those Philadelphia Phillies taking care of business, and it's great to see because, I mentioned before that, if we can take advantage of inferior opponents and not play down to our competition and garner some momentum, we'll be in good shape, and that's exactly what we did. And I don't think this gets talked about enough. Phillies have a really good bench, and that's been key throughout the entire season. Obviously, Cody Clemens has come up big in the absence of Alec Boehm. He obviously had the walk-off a couple nights ago. You have guys like Weston Wilson stepping up in a big way. And, obviously Sosa's injured right now, but when he's had to step up and play, he's been producing. And, Garrett Stubbs even, who I've been critical of as a player, obviously, he's good for the vibes, but on the field early on in the season, I wasn't very impressed, and I was starting to get a little annoyed, because you had a guy like, Rafael Marchand who was outplaying him, but he stepped up in a big way over the last couple games that he's played. So that's good to see that he's not just a vibes guy, that he can actually produce on the field. So that's good to see. And then obviously Austin Hayes, when he comes back, that there will be decisions to make in the outfield. So I like where we are in terms of depth, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. And I do think, like, God forbid, if anything happens to our guys, these guys can step up and you have confidence in. So I like what I'm seeing there. Obviously, we have a big series coming up against the Mets. It's key that we take care of business and sort of, put the nail in the coffin of the NL East. If you look at the Phillies' magic number to clinch the playoffs, it's 8, and the magic number to clinch the NL East is 9. So they have a golden opportunity to take care of the Mets, who have overachieved this year and have played well and are primed to try to make a run at the playoffs. But I think the Phillies are a better team. They've had their number, and at least over the last couple of years. And, in big moments and in big games, they usually take care of business against the Mets. And I think this will be much of the same. We can really put a dagger in the divisional race and claim the NL East sooner rather than later. So it is key that we take care of business there. And before I get into some Flyers talk, I want to let you guys know about our sponsor, Warlord Beard Oil. If you go to www.warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code OLDSPORTS, you will get 15% off site-wide. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So again, go to www.warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code OLDSPORTS for 15% off site-wide. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So Warlord Beard Oils will take care of you. So let's talk about the Flyers. A little bit of breaking news. I don't know if you guys are aware, but the rookie games are tomorrow and Saturday. They will be taking place at the PPL Arena in Allentown. Obviously, I'm looking very, very much forward to Mitchkoff and seeing how he does, because he's going to be a key, not just for the Flyers this year, but going forward. But there's been a lot of speculation about highly renowned goalie Alexei Kalazov, who a lot of Flyers fans are excited to see. I have word from our own Jesse Bell, who does really good work, obviously, at Old City Sports Network. he can confirm that Alexei Kolozov will not be at the rookie camp, nor will be on the game roster, and he will not be joining the Phantoms this year. It is, in all likelihood, he will be re-signing with the Minsk Dynamo. So a little bit of unfortunate news for some Flyers fans that were looking forward to seeing him. Obviously, there's some question marks with our goaltending, with the uncertainty with Carter Hart, which doesn't look like that situation is going to be resolved anytime soon. But that's a little tidbit for you guys. And if you want to get Flyers coverage or get recap of the Flyers come games in Allentown, my guys over at Flyers Alley, the best in the business, in my opinion, will take care of you. They go live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter Sunday at 1:30 p.m. So make sure to check those guys out. Those guys are really good, and I really like their work. And I think if you want the best in terms of Flyers coverage, those guys are the ones to help you out. So that will be that for episode 4. I want to close out by shouting out my best friend Bug and his wife Kate. Tomorrow they will be welcoming their 4th child. So shout out to Bug and Kate. And that will be it for us today. And so there's a lot going on, obviously, this time of year. The Flyers are going to get going, and soon the Sixers will get going. So, there'll be a time where all 4 sports will be playing, and I will, this being a all things Philadelphia podcast, I will get into all things that is Philadelphia sports. So I look forward to it. That will conclude episode 4. Enjoy the Phillies as they take on the Mets. And if you're interested in the Flyers rookie camp and the rookie games, that will be taking place tomorrow and Saturday. And then obviously Monday Night Football will be the Eagles and the Falcons. The Eagles will obviously have their home opener. I look forward to seeing all those crazy Eagles fans. So if you're going to the game, enjoy yourself, go crazy, and cheer on those Eagles as they take on the Falcons. So I will catch you guys later, and enjoy your weekend.